It's hard to become a WWE superstar, this we know. But imagine you got into the company only to be left hanging. That's got to be a hard thing to overcome. You can't really blame WWE either. No one is so on the ball they can identify talent every time. So some people are always going to fall through the cracks. I mean, let's go back in time to WCW and Steve Austin. Eric Bischoff isn't letting him go if you knew what was coming, but you can't predict this stuff. Have to go with your gut and hope. Sometimes that just doesn't work out. I'm Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 superstars failed by the WWE system. Number 10, Derrick Bateman. At one point in the past, Derrick Bateman was in FCW, teaming successfully with Johnny Curtis. The real treat here is the former would go on to become Ethan Carter III, and the latter is Fandango. Bateman had a couple of runs with NXT before it was an actual brand, which was never gonna help because of how bizarre that concept was. But he was able to stand out here to some degree with his mic skills and how he held himself. Seemed like something was there. When NXT did actually become the NXT we know today though, Bateman's stock fell, and less than a year later, he'd been released. Mere months after this though, he became a rare TNA success story and would probably now be a welcome addition to WWE's ranks. But again, if this hadn't have gone down this way, would we have got what we have now? Just never know. Number 9, David Hart Smith. One of several second-generation stars that never seemed to click in WWE. The son of the British Bulldog was probably brought in a little too early, and even he himself knew that. Hart Smith himself requested a move back to developmental for further development, and it was during this run he'd pair with Tyson Kidd and put the building blocks in place for a solid run. Returning to the main roster in mid-2009 to work with Kidd and Natalya as the Hart Dynasty, the trio made a quick impression on ECW, earning them a move to SmackDown and enough steam to challenge DX for the tag titles. An appearance in the Bret Hart Vince McMahon match at WrestleMania 26 seemed to position them all for big things, but a worthless tag team title reign midway through the year offered little, and then he was released halfway through 2011. Smith himself has said WWE took away some of his passion, but now he's ripping it up in New Japan, so it all ended well. Number 8, Curtis Axel. Given that Curtis Axel has been with the WWE since 2010, and when you remember who his dad is, I don't think he's necessarily been used to his full potential. Brought in with a bunch of stupid names, the crowd turned on the man quite quickly, and from there it was an uphill battle. He was the runner-up in the second season of NXT and did get a boost thanks to the Nexus angle, but then in 2011, a Randy Orton punt kick wrote him off TV and he never gained any sort of momentum back. It was at this stage he was renamed as Curtis Axel and paired with Paul Heyman, but fluke victories over Triple H did zero to establish him, and he's kind of just floundered ever since. Why the hell he wasn't just called Mr. Perfect, I'll never know. Best gimmick ever, that. Everyone would have loved it. Number 7, Percy Watson. A genuine highlight during the early days of NXT, Percy Watson burst onto the screen with a relatable enthusiasm and marketable persona. With a sort of Eddie Murphy gimmick, colourful tights and matching sunglasses, Watson stood out amongst his peers in the talent show format, particularly when handed a microphone. Developing a legitimately popular "oh yeah" catchphrase, Watson was one of the few floundering acts to make an impression, so much so that he even won his own talk show, which further developed his main roster-ready persona. However, after an oddly reserved 5th place elimination from the show, Watson would quietly debut on WWE Superstars months later in a completely stripped-down version of his character, robbing him of all the fundamentals that made such a strong early impression. Limp storylines on NXT Redemption followed with the 2014 release Reverse when he came back in 2016, only now he was a commentator. Okay. Number 6, Koval. Oh, how things change. When Koval, or Loki, who was one of the informed indie standouts during Season 2 of NXT, appeared in the WWE, he should have kicked all the ass. There were the usual roadblocks, sure, but this was a guy with years of experience who could go. All the tools were there. However, almost instantly, no one had a clue how to use the World Warrior. Even when he won NXT, the season's other losing rookies decked him, leading to a ludicrous brawl with the other mentors on the show. Koval lost his winner's title shot at November 2010 Survivor Series, and then he was released from the company before the end of the year. Number 5, Brandon Walker. One of the more infamous WWE flops, the former Chris Harris dug his own grave a bit when he turned up with seemingly the complete opposite physique and work rate to what he had prior. With that said, the company still stubbed out what little fire he had left. Skipping developmental upon signing in early 2008, Brandon Walker briefly worked dark matches before getting introduced to ECW via the New Talent Initiative, in which superstars would get launched cold onto the show. As a vehicle for introducing wrestlers to the wider WWE audience, it was a failure in itself, giving people very little reason to care about a wrestler they were seeing. In the case of Walker, it should have been a bit different, as he did have some buzz given he was a former TNA guy. However, WWE shot that down too, feeding Walker an atrociously bad knock-knock line in a woeful introductory segment. The promo was death, and alongside some ordinary in-ring work from Walker, he was on borrowed time. Got released in August 2008, and his stint lasted less than a year. Number 4, Shawn Stasiak. Fun fact, I went to the UK WCW shows in 2000 and just shouted meat at Shawn Stasiak. I was close enough to the ramp where he heard me before staring back with a sad look on his face. Sorry, Sean. This was the problem, though. When WWE gives you a gimmick where you're some sort of property owned by Terry Runnels, Jacqueline and Ryan Shamrock and called Meat, well, that's the end, isn't it? Meat isn't going to be WWE Champion. Then it got worse because he was fired after he was caught recording backstage conversations for his own amusement. The hell are you doing, Meat? He had an awful start to his second WWE stint too, where he apparently floored the entire WCW Invades angle by giving it away during an interview, and from there it was just downhill. He was jobbed out and made a mockery of constantly, and then turned into Planet Stasiak, some weird dude that ran around like he was bonkers. On second thought, maybe this wasn't WWE's fault at all. Number 3, Adam Bomb. Adam Bomb was weird because while he wasn't the most talented dude in the world, there was something there. I remember as a kid thinking he was really cool. Debuting in 1993, Bomb was athletic for his size, physically imposing at nearly 7 foot tall, and had a character that was no less cartoonish than the majority of the roster at the time. However, with the exception of dumping heel manager Harvey Whippleman in mid-94, Bomb was rarely given a significant storyline for his character to sink his teeth into. That meant he was expendable, and by 95 he was almost exclusively relegated to scoring pointless wins on weekend shows or laying down for the real stars. The major issue could have been how similar he was to Kevin Nash, who was the champ at the time, but it always did feel like WWE never went all in with him. Number 2, Mike Awesome. Mike Awesome had been saddled with the dreaded can't miss tag since his early days in ECW, which is always trouble. When people put too high hopes on you, you've got to deliver, otherwise you're always going to struggle. Pairing the hardcore style with an eye-popping array of dives and top rope splashes, Awesome seemed to have the complete package and looked to be the perfect candidate for a Vince McMahon WWE mega push. By the time Awesome worked his way in via the 2001 WCW buyout, WWE had a massive roster and there were loads of other distractions. His debut went well enough as he defeated Rhino to win the hardcore title, but that really was his only WWE highlight. Losing the belt a few weeks later, Awesome would pair with Lance Storm for a while, but he remained lost in the shuffle and eventually he got fired in September 2002. Number 1, DLo Brown. As a former IC champion with 4 sensational European title reigns and a key role during WWE's hottest ever period, it's a testament to DLo Brown's talent how he could still be considered a company failure. But the man who continually shook his head exhibited all the tools to be a very top player in the organization, and though anybody breaking through a crowd including Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, Mick Foley and Triple H seemed impossible, the company were dreadful at protecting his aura for the days where they wouldn't be so talent rich. Having spent the previous year as the backbone of the Nation of Domination, he had the chest protector, he made the European title feel important, and he had great matches with X-Pac, Val Venus and other mid-carders. In short, DLo was on fire heading into 1999. But from here it all went bad. The horrendous incident with Droz affected his confidence no end, as it would, and WWE didn't help given they teamed in with Headbanger Mosh and called them Lowdown. When that predictably failed, DLo spent months back in WWE's developmental system before a brief return with Teddy Long in 2002, and then he was released in 2003.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. Or don't. 50-50.